Welcome to the Russ Joy Show. I'm Russ Joy. You knew that because you're smart. It's also the name of the show, and it is a great day to be a Philadelphia sports fan. It is a great day to be a Philadelphia Phillies fan. It is a great day to be a Philadelphia Eagles fan. You can even make the case that it might even be a great day to be a Sixers fan, a Flyers fan, maybe even a Union fan. But it's definitely not a great day to be an Atlanta Braves fan. It's not a great day to be a New York Mets fan. It's not a great day to be a New Orleans Saints fan. Now, I usually mark the first episode of this show as like the second show that I've done of the week, but nay, I didn't do one on Monday over on Crossing Broadcast. So you get me 100% in the moment, and I'm very excited. We're gonna get into the Phillies winning the NL East, the absolute debauchery that happened afterwards, and a whole lot more. But I would be remiss if I didn't let you know that there is now a new place for you to go if you want to get the best, and I mean this, the best merchandise for Red October. And I'm actually going to pop it up here on the show. But if you haven't checked it out yet, you go over to shop.therussjoyshow.com. I'm going to pull it up here because there are some great designs. And I had a guy reach out to me, and he wanted to do some stuff way back in the day for the Snow the Goalie store. And that didn't work out, but then he came back to me and he said, hey, what do you think about doing some stuff around Red October? And I said, you know what? I think that's a fantastic idea. So let me show you a little bit what we have going on over there. And if you saw it on Twitter, you might have actually loaded a cart last night. Don't worry. It's not too late to get some merch. Shop.therussjoyshow.com. Red October stuff. It's going to be a lot of fun. There's a lot of great stuff here. We've got this cute little ghost. This is also available in kid size, which is good for people like me who are small. But the Red October shirt, a little spooky season. If you're a big October spooky season fan, you've got that shirt. You've got the Schwarbomb, Red October. Don't give a cruck. Everything else, or Red October. You got this little ditty right here. This cute little, I don't know, I said cute for this one, but postseason, ring the bell, postseason 2024. You go over to shop.therussjoyshow.com and go get your new merch. Now, there are more things. You'll notice that this is all kind of parsed off. You can go to search all products, and you'll see every design. There are some other designs that aren't on the main landing page of the site. But head on over there today. Go get your merch. Get ready for Red October. And this one has become a favorite of friends and family who I showed some of this stuff to ahead of time. But ring the bell. So head on over, shop.therussjoyshow.com. I might shamelessly plug that again before the end of the episode today, but I do have positive news for you. If you use promo code JOY when you sign up, you'll get free shipping on all orders of $50 or more. So if you're like, oh, you know what? I might get 2 t-shirts. Guess what? Free shipping. Use code JOY. You're like, oh, you know, I think I'm going to get a hoodie and a shirt. Free shipping. Use the code JOY. If you're like, hey, I just want to get a long sleeve shirt for $30 and pay for the shipping, more power to you. I would just say, you know, tack something else on there. Not a bad idea. Free shipping. Who doesn't love free shipping? The terrorists. Welcome in to the show. Now, I know that a lot of people might be in the midst of I don't want to say a hangover. I had a really, really, really bad hangover this weekend, thanks to the Anthony SanFilippo wedding, which, by the way, went off without a hitch. It was a great wedding. It was a fantastic evening of fun, great conversation, just an insane night. But I may or may not have felt absolutely horrible the next day. The one beautiful thing is that where Anthony's wedding was, the hotel had a Wawa, like, I don't know, a quarter of a mile away. So I woke up that next day. I somehow ended up, I started walking in the parking lot, and I was like, I think it's a good idea to go get a coffee. I'm going to go get a coffee really early this morning. And I did. And I'll tell you what, that Wawa coffee had me feeling better than I deserved to feel that day. Andrew Fawcett asks over in the comments, went off without a hitch, but did Hitch make an appearance? Do I have that sound drop available here? I don't think I do. No, I think it's on the other studio. All right, I'll have to have that for next time. But no, I don't have the Bundy mating call here. No Hitch. Hitch was not there. Gonna go over to the comments really quick before we dive into last night's game. Nico says, "Go Phils." Andrew with a good morning says it's a bad day to be a Cowboys fan. Hunter Mikos checks in over on YouTube. Good morning. Go Phillies. And the Cal Peterson go home. And Nico compliments on the ghost shirt design. Seriously, shop.therussjoyshow.com. You head over there. Use promo code JOY. Get free shipping on orders of $50 or more. Orders already started coming in last night, which made me feel very warm and fuzzy. There's nothing quite like putting out the idea of, rolling out merch to the people and having it work almost immediately. So that was very cool. But anyway, the Phillies won last night. And while we could sit here and do a full episode breaking down each and everything that we saw in that game, I think it's probably a better idea to just take a moment to appreciate where this team was, where this team started, and where this team ended up. Because if you go back to the beginning of the year, the Phillies were not being talked about as a team that was going to win the NL East. Just about every pundit believed that it was going to be the Braves. Just about every pundit thought that the Phillies would be in contention to compete for a playoff spot, for a wild card spot. And if you remember, the Mets also entered the season thinking that they had a legitimate shot at winning the NL East. And yet here we are, September 24th, the day before my birth. That's tomorrow. The Phillies have won the NL East for the first time in 11 years. I want you to think for a second. And if you're in the comments section on YouTube or X or Facebook, I want you to think back for a second. 11 years ago, what has changed in your life in the 11 years since the Phillies won? Or no, it's not 11. It's 13 years. It was 2011 when they won it last. What has changed in your life in the last 13 years? That's going to add a lot to a lot of you. What has changed since 2011 in your life? I got married. Wait, hold on. 2011. All right, I was still in college. Graduated college, became a teacher, worked for, 9 years as a teacher, freelanced as a sports writer, started Snow the Goalie, started Crossing Broadcast, wrote for Crossing Broad, got hired by the parent company and left teaching, got married, had 4 kids, celebrated a 10-year anniversary, and I'm not, this is my last day being 33, so I'll say it's a pretty damn good way to wake up the morning of the last day of me being 33 by celebrating a Phillies division win. The NL East, again, wasn't something that was supposed to be in the cards for this team, and yet the Braves injuries, they piled up. I don't want to make today, and in fairness, I haven't had coffee, so I'm not jumping through the ceiling right now, but I don't want to poo-poo this because it's a very big moment. We all feel very good about it. But the Braves had a lot of mounting injuries. And throughout this season, we had a lot of very tense moments where we actually had to kind of reconcile, oh no, there's a chance the Phillies are going to blow this. The Braves only up until about a week or two ago really looked like they could still threaten, that they were still within striking distance and they could have still gone after this thing. The Mets gave the Phillies a little bit of a run as well. That kind of dissipated. Now, the Mets win 3 out of 4 in a very uncomfortable series for the Phillies, but the Phillies come home, they take on the Cubs, they take care of business. And here is the one thing that I'll say about last night's game. Aaron Nola did exactly what he was supposed to do. And now all of a sudden, if you remember a week ago, I think it was a week ago, we were talking about, all right, what happens with the number 2 spot in the rotation? Is it going to be Aaron Nola? Is it going to be Christopher Sanchez? And I don't think anybody truly believed that Christopher Sanchez would get thrown into that spot, that Rob Thompson would absolutely upend his rotation. But you could make a case that over the last month and a half, 2 months of the season, that Christopher Sanchez has legitimately pitched at a number 2. And Aaron Nola's had some okay performances, some not so great. But last night pretty much did exactly what you needed to do. Go 6 innings, 2 earned runs, 7 strikeouts, perfectly fine performance. Kept you in that game. The Phillies bats got you off to an early lead. We had a Schwarbomb, which again, shop.therussjoyshow.com. Go pick up your Schwarbomb shirt, hoodie, or crew neck sweatshirt or long sleeve shirt. But we had a Schwarbomb last night. That was great. But like Nola did exactly what he was supposed to do. And then you kind of like go for it. Bullpen, largely fine. Hoffman, good performance. Estevez, a little bit all over the place. I think if there's one thing that you walk away from last night going, about, it might be the closer situation. But Estevez has kind of shown, like, well, there have been a few not ideal shutdown ninth innings this season. However, a perfectly acceptable closer. You're probably okay. Or at least we'll hope. We'll pray. And if you don't believe in God or something, you can hug a tree and give it a peck on the cheek. I don't know where a tree has a cheek, but you can give it maybe a peck on the bark, a little smooch, you know. Ask the tree if it's okay if you give it a peck on the bark first. But, you know, I don't know if woodpeckers do, so I don't actually know if you're in worse shape or not. But last night's game was perfectly fine. But the thing that really did kind of catch everything on fire was the reaction. Because one thing that we know Philadelphia is capable of doing, it's throwing a party. It's celebrating. And boy, the Phillies did not let us down. But the moment of the night, without question, is what happened in the locker room. Now, I'm going to bring up a whole bunch of stuff here on the screen. And if you're listening in the podcast feed, I think you'll still get to enjoy a lot of it. But John Middleton had what I would consider the quote of the night. John Middleton, of course, the Phillies owner, the guy that is pretty famous for saying something about wanting his trophy back. Fear not, friends. John Middleton still feels the exact same way. And he reiterated it to the team last night that he wants his trophy back. We're going to throw it to John Middleton. Rob Thompson says, we said in the offseason, this guy wants his trophy back. Let's just listen to what John Middleton, the owner of the Phillies, had to say. We had a few Middleton bombs there. He wants his fucking trophy back. And I'll tell you what, a lot of times in sports, when an owner goes on record with a quote, especially one that has profanity, they tend to kind of shy away from it. They tend to kind of want to make you forget that they said it. But John Middleton being in the locker room and that being the moment to set the guys off with the champagne and with the beer, that was really it. Now, that wasn't all we saw. There was a lot. Now, I used the term debauchery before, and maybe it's a little bit too far. Maybe it's not. This, I think, was my absolute favorite moment to come out of the celebration. We're going to throw over to here because I think I mentioned this at one point on this show. There was a DJ who mixed Kamala Harris and Donald Trump. And you know, like Kamala Harris, the clip goes around and she says, like, you know, do not come. Don't come. I forget what the context is, but she says that. And then there's another rally where Trump says, I'm going to come. And it led to, well, you'll see. Just listen in the background. Maybe this will get taken down by YouTube, but we'll find out. Here we go.
This was one of the goals, was to win the division.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's just another step in what our ultimate goal is going to be this season, which is to win the World Series. We got to the postseason. Now winning the division's the next step. Hopefully we get the bye, the 1 seed, and we'll keep rolling.
You don't have a count yet, I know that. How good was Nola tonight?
He was great.
So here's the Crossing Broadway and transcribed. You can see it in the background, but the Kamala Harris quote, the Donald Trump quote. And that's the thing that they dropped the beat to. Now, if you're wondering out there, if you're worried, if you are somebody who is just incapable of enjoying a moment and then fears for the politics of your players, I will tell you, if you were unaware, there are a lot of very conservative guys in that locker room. And so if you woke up this morning as the most liberal Phillies fan in the world, and it is now crushing your soul that there are not 100% Kamala Harris voters in the clubhouse, I'm sorry. I guess I ruined that for you. But there's more. There was more that happened yesterday. That wasn't it. We had Brandon Marsh. I don't exactly know what this was. Let me see if I need to drop the volume on this. We have Brandon Marsh going nuts. Dude's in great shape. Good for him. Let's see. We had the UNLV helmet that Stott was wearing. They had an issue with the audio coming through. Apparently, at some point, the aux cord came out, so that had to get rectified. We have Cody Clemens doing the gritty, so that also happened in the locker room. This was maybe the best one. This is Stubbs. And we all know that Stubbs is the major vibes guy. He's the guy that we always talk about as being Captain Vibes. Why is he on the team? Is he really the best backup catcher option? You got to see Garrett Stubbs proving why he is the vibes guy. He put together the Spotify playlist. Let's go to Garrett Stubbs and how he's feeling with his overalls. Apparently, they were overalls with shorts. They were shorts overalls.
How many overalls?
Oh, overall pairs? I thought we were trying to see how many we could fit in the overalls. The cargo is incredible.
The cargo is
I don't know. I think I have like 7, 8 different colorways.
All right, give me an idea
I mean,
of your party.
tell me if I'm wrong, but Stubbs to me sounds like an absolute hockey player. He sounds like a guy that you would expect to see. I don't want to say in a Flyers locker room for a Stanley Cup because it hasn't happened since, the 70s. But Trey Turner showed up with a bunch of Coors Light. I think they were drinking Budweiser for most of the day. This is great. This came from Devin Caney, I guess from behind the scenes. This was a live shot of the reporters getting suited up before they entered the locker room. So they've got the huge goggles. They've got the jackets. It's actually a shame. I think back to a few years ago, and it was Anthony and Bob who do the show Crossed Up, which is a great Phillies podcast you should listen to if you don't already. But they were both down in the locker room, and I thought about it yesterday because I talked on the phone with Anthony and his now wife Maria, and they were on their way to a little getaway trip that they're doing, and where are they going? Virginia. I think they're going to Virginia. Virginia's for lovers. And so they were on the road. And I didn't even think about the fact that like the Phillies were about to clinch. And then I thought about it. I'm like, I'm sure Anthony's very happy to spend time with his wife. I'm sure he's thrilled to spend his day and the rest of his life with Maria. But I almost guarantee there's a small part of him that wishes he could have been there getting doused with champagne and beer with the Phillies. There's a small part of me that thinks it. Now, there are other things that came out yesterday. There were some great clips going around on social media. I'm just going to keep it going because I think that's part of the fun of winning the division. This guy was a vibe. This guy's a mood.
Years we waited for this. I've gotten married and divorced and had 2 kids. Years we waited for.
So, okay, he's gone through a lot. And I asked you guys before, what's changed in the 13 years since the Phillies last won the NL East? And we're going to go over really quick to the comments because I think I saw a few people say some things that have happened. Nico says graduated high school and college and got his first job. Well done, Nico. Well done. Andrew Fawcett says, I don't recognize the man I was 11 years ago today. I'm in a great place today. That's awesome. Good job, Andrew. Well done. Spiral Out checks in. What up, Russ? Go Phils. Said. I didn't see the clip going on. Oh, this is, I think, one of the last ones I want to show you guys. And I assume that many of you have seen this. But if you didn't, boy, oh boy, this to me was the moment. Like, this is the one where I felt very good about the Phillies. They're at Xfinity Live, as teams tend to be after a celebration. And check out what happened. You've got your real Mufasa moment. You got your Lion King. Well, no, it's not Mufasa. It's Rafiki. Rafiki holding up Simba. You got little babies. You got little toddlers out there. Now, as we all know, the Phillies and daycare, we get it. We know. But a very cool moment for them and their families. And then I think this is the last one. You have Hoffman is out on the field. I'll pull this one up. So Hoffman is out on the field. And then you'll see the juxtaposition between the young guys and some of the older guys. So here's Hoffman. Beautiful moment.
Schwarber. They're all from without.
Beautiful moment with his kids on the field. And then we flip to the clubhouse.
Jeff Hoffman hugged his kids, and the party's going on the field and in the clubhouse. Tom McCarthy now.
So there you go. The duality of man, right? One guy's on the field with his kids, and the rest of them are absolutely getting hammered in the locker room. So, what does this all mean, right? The Phillies win the division, and we're all really happy about it. What does it actually mean? And in the grand scheme of things, where are the Phillies in relation to the rest of the National League and in relation to the rest of Major League Baseball? Because the last time that we spoke to each other last Friday, the Phillies were dead level with the Dodgers, and they were ahead of any other team in the American League in terms of getting home field advantage through the playoffs. So by virtue of last night's win, the 93rd win of the season for the Phillies, they are level in the win column, but they have one loss more than the Dodgers do. So they've played one more game than the Dodgers, and it was a loss. So technically, the Dodgers are up by, a half game on the Phillies for home field advantage in the National League. And then if you look over in the American League, it's the Yankees. The Yankees have opened up, I think, like a 2.5 game lead over the Guardians for home field advantage in the American League. They now sit, a game behind the Phillies, or sorry, a half game. They are also 64 losses, 92 wins, so they're a half game behind the Phillies. So right now it's Dodgers, Phillies, Yankees, and I believe from top to bottom, the separation is a single game. So each and every game is going to matter from now until the end of the season. And while I'm sure the Phillies are thrilled, they have 5 games left, and there isn't much runway left if you're trying to get home field advantage. Now, do I think it's the most critical thing in the world? No. And as I've said many times on this show, I don't necessarily think that the Dodgers getting home field advantage is the worst thing in the world, because the Dodgers haven't really performed in the postseason in a meaningful way, and I'm not really that concerned with them. Now, would it be better to have Red October in Philadelphia? Would it be better to have the entirety of the playoffs going through Philadelphia? 100%. Absolutely. But I don't necessarily think that the Phillies 100% need it in order to make it to a World Series or even to win the World Series. Let's see. Over on YouTube, the Fish Hobbyist, I believe this is somebody who's new to the show. Fish Hobbyist, welcome. Says, no one wants the Mets. So damn dangerous. Interesting. I guess riding the idea that the Mets put a little bit of a scare in the Phillies down the stretch, took down the Phillies in 3 of 4 in New York, and maybe there's a fear that a hot Mets team could be a problem in the postseason. Maybe. Possible. The last thing that I saw, the last updated playoff bracket, I believe had the Dodgers, and they would play the winner of a potential Mets series in the first round. So I'm just not, if I'm the Phillies, am I truly concerned about having to play the Mets in the postseason? You would hope not. Though the one thing that you have seen in the past is that when divisional teams go head-to-head in the postseason, you can throw records out the window. And, lest we forget, the Phillies have knocked out the Braves before. A Braves team that looked like it was going to be a World Series winner. The Phillies have knocked them out before. So I'm not going to sit here and tell you, or stand here and tell you that the Phillies are going to have a simple run to a World Series. And I'm not telling you that they would sweep the Mets. Am I as concerned maybe as I should be about the Mets? No, not right now. But we have to see how things play out. And really, I think that this is going to be a big test for the Phillies to see how do they finish the season? Because the last thing that you can afford to do if you're the Phillies is to rest on your laurels, to be super hungover today, and to not be ready for what's to come. Now, I'm looking just ahead to the next 2 games against the Cubs just to see who they plan to have in the rotation. It looks like Tanner Banks is listed as the probable pitcher to start tonight's game. Saw a lot of people wondering if Taijuan Walker was going to be out there. And then tomorrow, Christopher Sanchez is on the mound. So Wednesday's game, the series finale against the Cubs, it's going to be Christopher Sanchez. Now, I'll be interested to see who the Phillies end up trotting out against the Nationals. The Nationals are very much out of it, 69-87 as of today. It's not even a matter of playing spoiler if you're the Nationals. The only thing that you're really playing spoiler for, if you really want to get excited about it, is maybe costing the Phillies home field advantage. That's it. Otherwise, there's really nothing that you're going to get out of that series if you're the Nats. I'm going to go over to the comments really quick because I did see A few other things over here. JH says they're bringing the commissioner's trophy back 100% for sure, even if it's the ugliest trophy in sports. JH also believes that the Mets aren't going to be an issue. Says the Phillies won, Eagles won, World Series, Super Bowl, and Stanley Cup imminent. Let's not go too crazy there, JH. I was fine there for a while. We could make the case about the World Series. We could maybe make a case, although after Sunday, I'm not so sure about the case for the Super Bowl. But we all know that the Stanley Cup is certainly not coming to Philadelphia anytime soon, unless they're going to bring it like to an alumni game like they did last year. I got to meet Lord Stanley's Cup last year, the Flyers and Bruins alumni game. That's the only way a Stanley Cup is coming to Philadelphia. That is legitimately it. Not this year, not next year, not 2 years from now, maybe 4 or 5 years from now. If all things go well, maybe then the Flyers will hoist Lord Stanley's Cup again. But now that we've talked about the Phillies, now that we got to talk about the celebration, we feel good about it. I do have to take you guys back to Sunday, and I'm really sorry if this picks at a wound that you would hope would scab over by now. The Eagles won on Sunday, but to quote the Wario meme, I've won, but at what cost? Because the Eagles' victory over the Saints wasn't all that impressive. Now, I'm sure that there are people who are going to say, hey, the Eagles managed to shut down a Saints offense that absolutely destroyed the Cowboys in week 2 to the tune of 44 points. And when you look at it, and when you look at what happened against the Saints, the Eagles actually did play a decent enough defensive game. They held the Saints to 12 points. How could you complain coming out of that game? The real reason is pretty simple. If you're an Eagles fan and you've been waiting to see the Eagles take that next step and to watch the Eagles prove to you that they're more of the team from week 1 than the one that blew a late lead in week 2, here's the positive. The defense was phenomenal. Now, the defense wasn't perfect, but again, taking a team that scored 44 against the Cowboys and holding them to 12 points at home is a hell of a feat. The pass rush looked significantly better. Jalen Carter looked significantly more impactful. We saw Jordan Davis get to the quarterback. We saw decent play in the secondary. And you know what else we saw? A cut in Bryce Huff's snaps. A cut in the snap percentage that Bryce Huff played in week 3. His lowest percentage of the season thus far. And this will come as a surprise to you. Despite the fact that he had his minutes cut, despite the fact that he had his snaps cut, he was just as impactful as ever. 0 sacks, 0 forced fumbles, 0 pressures on the quarterback, 0 tackles for a loss, a good old-fashioned 0. We continue to wonder what exactly the Eagles thought they were getting in Bryce Huff and where that player has gone within his own mind, because Bryce Huff was once again a non-factor. And yet, we can look at that Eagles game and say, the defense was fantastic, but the offense only scored 15 points. Now, I'm not the pickiest guy in the world, I promise. I'm not a total psycho. I'm mostly a psycho, but not an entire one. The Eagles' offense looked very out of sorts. Now, there were turnover issues. You had Jalen Hurts lose a fumble where he rolls out to his left. He's still looking downfield. He's not securing the ball. He gets tripped up at his feet. Ball comes out. Had an interception issue. At one point, I think they went punt, interception, fumble, punt 4 series in a row. You went into halftime of that game where you probably should have been leading just based on how you'd played. You're losing 3-0 at halftime. And again, it was like the same thing. It was at least the defense has played well. The game ball goes to the defense. The game ball goes to Vic Fangio. The offense's inability to find rhythm is a legitimate concern. Now, during the telecast, Fox showed how the Eagles have played with and without A.J. Brown since his acquisition a couple of years ago. And this is actually the first time the Eagles have won with A.J. Brown out of the lineup. And so if you're looking for a silver lining, at least on the offensive side of the ball, you say, hey, you managed to weather the storm, and I believe the expectation is that A.J. Brown will be back this week. That's the hope. If you're looking for another offensive or another silver lining, Saquon Barkley, once again, an absolute stud. Now, I've seen some pundits saying on the national stage that without Saquon Barkley, the Eagles are an 0-3 team. I think that's being hyperbolic, but like it's very hard to look at anything else and say like Saquon Barkley has exceeded expectations. Like I think we have to admit that, right? Like if let me re-rack this mentally for everyone. We have a tendency in Philadelphia to overrate free agents, to overrate our own players, to overrate guys who somehow ended up on our teams. We overrate them almost every time, right? Like you go back to like when T.O. was acquired, we somehow overrated T.O. and then he somehow exceeded those expectations. We overrated what Javon Curse was, the freak. That didn't work out. We sort of overrated what an acquisition Vince Young was going to be on the Dream Team year. That didn't work out. We overvalued Nnamdi Asomugha. Didn't work. Byron Maxwell. Didn't work out. We kind of lied to ourselves for a little bit and tried to tell ourselves that Jalen Reagor was going to turn things around and be an actual player. We lied to ourselves for a while and tell ourselves that Nelson Aguilar was maybe going to turn it around. There's a reason they drafted him so high. Saquon Barkley has not only lived up to expectations, he's exceeded them in every way through 3 weeks of the season. That's another multi-touchdown performance. The crazy thing, the thing that I just couldn't wrap my head around was whether it was Kellen Moore calling the plays or whether it was Nick Sirianni calling the plays or whoever installed the game plan. Saquon Barkley didn't get his first carry of the game until the second quarter. I think it was like 14 minutes and 27 seconds on the clock. So it's very early in the second quarter. But that was the first time Saquon Barkley was handed the ball in the game. Like, you're never going to catch me trying to tell you that I know X's and O's better than a pro coach, right? Or better than a collegiate coach. Hell, even better than a high school coach. But one thing I can tell you is that there is no excuse for having Saquon Barkley, who you brought in as a big money free agent, as a guy who was supposed to solidify the backfield, a guy who had a 3-touchdown performance in week 1. There is no offensive coordinator or head coach in the rest of the league that would have advised waiting until the second quarter to give him a carry. It made no sense. On the day, Barkley ends up with 17 carries, which I would say is still too low. I want to see him around 20. You can make the case, well, it's only 3. Russ, it's only 3. Why are you getting so worked up about 3 carries? It's because of how impactful he was. He's picking up 4, 5, 6 yards per carry. Big chunk yardage. Then he goes off for a long touchdown. 17 carries, 147 yards, 2 touchdowns on the ground. Fantastic performance by Saquon Barkley. But he wasn't the only guy. He wasn't the only guy to step up in a big way. Dallas Goedert had his holy shit, I'm glad I still have him on my fantasy team game. Goedert, I think, became the 6th player in NFL history, tight end in NFL history, to have 10 or more receptions and 170 or more yards. He goes for 10 and 170. An incredible performance out of him. We talked about this after week 2, but the weird thing in the game against the Falcons was you had no A.J. Brown. You knew that Devontae Smith was going to probably get a lot of double coverage. You knew that the defense was likely going to be queuing in on Barkley, who had 3 touchdowns the week prior. You figured that if there was one guy Jalen Hurts was going to be able to rely on in week 2, it was going to be Goedert. And yet we saw other tight ends pick up big receptions in week 2. We saw them get more looks than Goedert did. That all got rectified on Sunday against the Saints. Easily the best game of Dallas Goedert's career, at least from a yardage and receptions perspective, like a very strong game out of him, where he looked like a legitimate weapon, which then I guess kind of brings you back to, if you get A.J. Brown back this week, you've now reestablished the confidence of Goedert. Devontae Smith could be out because of a very dirty hit because of the concussion that he suffered late against the Saints on a play where his forward progress was stopped and the Saints had a player come in, legitimately pop his helmet off with a hit. So Devontae Smith, I would assume, is going to be out this week. Could be out a few weeks. Concussions are a tricky thing. If you get A.J. Brown back, cool. He's probably not going to be at 100%, right? Because hamstring injuries can be a real issue. You want to be careful with him. But you expect him to come back in and play a somewhat significant role for you. You've reestablished Goedert. You know that Barkley's great. There were some issues on the offensive line. We know that Lane Johnson left with a concussion. Mekhi Becton came out of that game as well. The right side of the line held up relatively well down the stretch. There are concerns going into week 4. You have to have legitimate concerns about the Eagles' health situation. Now, the positive, I guess, if you're looking for one for this week, is that the Bucs are a really solid team. Baker Mayfield's been playing really good football. If you were to lose on the road to Tampa, I don't think that the Eagles fan base is going to light itself on fire. The bigger issue would be, I think, is it the week after or it's 2 weeks later? Yeah, they've got this game, then it's 2 weeks until their next game. That's when they host the Browns. Like if they were playing the Browns at home this week and were to lose, it would be a disaster in Eagles world. But just by virtue of the fact that like the Bucs are a good team, Baker Mayfield is playing good football. You don't want to see the Eagles lose. No one does. But if you were to lose to the Bucs, it would be somewhat understandable. This is the same team that took down a very impressive, I think we can say, Commanders team. This is the same team that went on the road and took down the Lions. They do also happen to be a team that lost 26-7 to the Broncos in week 3. I expect a good game. I expect a strong game. Now, I'm not sure if Kevin Burkhardt and Tom Brady are going to be on the call for that one. That's something I'll be interested to see. Because Brady in week 3 seemed to regress back to Brady from week 1. Now, I didn't do quite as much of watching of all of the games like I did the first 2 weeks, but Brady seemed to be overly reserved again, which I don't totally understand. Let me see. I'm going to go over to the comments here really quick because Chris Freed asked a question that I don't know how to feel about. Says, is Jaden Daniels already the best quarterback in the NFC East? Now, I don't know why Chris decided that today is the day that we're going to do this. I don't know why Chris decided that today is the day to have this conversation. But Jaden Daniels did look good. He looked good against the Bengals last night. Completed 91.3% of his passes, which breaks the all-time rookie record for the highest completion percentage with at least 20 pass attempts. That was set by Dak Prescott. Was it in 2018? Whatever his rookie year was. So, or was it 88.1% was the prior high, and this was 93 or 91.3% from Jaden Daniels. Throws for 254 yards, 2 touchdowns, no interceptions, a passer rating of 141.7 against the Bengals. He had a good game. He looked good. He did. The Bengals, in fairness, are kind of a mess, but he did look really good. Does that give me a lot of pause? Does that make me think that all of a sudden the Eagles are in trouble? No. But Jaden Daniels does look a little bit more legit than I think some people wanted him to be. Is he better than Daniel Jones? Yes. Is Jaden Daniels better than Dak Prescott? No. Is Jaden Daniels better than Jalen Hurts? Debatable. It's only 3 weeks, though. We'll see. Let's not get ourselves too lost in the negativity. The Phillies won the NL East last night. The Eagles are technically 2-1. Let's live in a little bit of positivity. If we're going to be in the comments today, let's be positive in the comments today, which actually brings me to the last thing that happened. I think this was on Monday. This was on Sunday, but this is like the last Philly sports point of the day. Okay. The last big one. And it was something really cool that the Flyers did. And it had nothing to do with Matvei Mishkov. It had nothing to do with Jet Lashenko. We're not going to break down the 5-0 loss that they had in the preseason to the Montreal Canadiens. We're going to talk about the thing that was a genuinely beautiful moment and a truly great thing that the Flyers did. They invited the father of Johnny and Matthew Gaudreau to come to practice with them and to be part of training camp. And it was a really cool moment. I'm looking to see where I think there was video going around, but I'm actually going to throw this over to John Tortorella the decision to bring Gaudreau into camp, the reason for him being there, obviously, Johnny Gaudreau didn't play for Philly, but grew up as a Flyers fan. We all know this. So did his brother. But I want to go to Torts here. Why Torts decided to have the Gaudreau's father in camp and why that was meaningful for him and for the team. Let's go to that.
You had Guy Gaudreau out with you today.
Yes.
I gotta imagine coaching and being on the ice just means the world to him. Just what went behind that, and what was it like just chatting with him and having him out there?
Yeah. Behind it is I called him and I wanted to know if he wanted to come out. It's pretty close to home here as far as with his family and all and what's going on there. He's a coach. First time I met him was today. I never met Johnny and Matt. I never met them in my travels as a coach. But their family's here, a horrific situation going on. And he's a coach, and he's done some great work out here with some of the youth out here. And I figured it's perfect just to get him in with us. He was hesitant at first, and we kind of let him go at his timetable. And I think it worked out really well today. I gave him my camp book. We're going to check in next week and see if we can get him out here a couple more times and have him be part of it. I don't want it to just to be come out here. I want him to be part of it. I think it'll be therapeutic for him to be around us and run some drills. And he's done it before. He's a coach. And it was great. It was great to have him here, and we'll see where it goes.
We saw him banging the stick there as guys were circling around. Is that maybe something, too, you have in common?
Yeah, well, I don't know. He was giving me shit that I was yelling at the players to skate harder. He says, you only have 3 lines out here. How much harder can they go? And so he's paying attention. So it was good. People came into the coach's room. A lot of people know him, in the organization because of his reputation and being out here and the family. So it was good. It was good. And I hope we can keep doing it with him.
So that was a really cool moment. And I think at this point, depending, I don't know, this show isn't just hockey, right? Like we talk about a lot of the teams in town, but for those, who I guess were unfamiliar with what happened to the Gaudreaus, you can certainly go look that up. But it was a really, really cool moment. It was a really cool opportunity that the Flyers, that John Tortorella extended to their dad, Guy Gaudreau. And that's a really, really cool moment, a very good human moment. And something that people should be, I think, proud of. I think it's a really neat thing that the Flyers did. And we'll see. We'll see if they have him back out to camp. But there is something beautiful about sports kind of being a thing that help you to decompress, to get away from the stress, to get away from sorrow, and maybe to help the father of the Gaudreaus kind of continue to process things and be in a place that he feels really comfortable, which is on ice, around a hockey team. So that was a really cool thing. And I think that's actually like a nice positive place to end the show today. Sometimes we go with a very long show. I don't think there's a whole lot of things to dissect right now. The National League East thing is cool, but like I said, 5 games to go. I'm really, truly looking more forward to what is to come if the Phillies are able to get home field advantage. I think that is what's going to really matter. I think that ultimately is the thing that's most important. And then you go beyond that, we'll see how the Eagles look on Sunday. We'll be back here on Friday. We'll have a better idea of where the Phillies are in relation to home field advantage. We'll be back on Friday to preview their game against the Buccaneers. I might have a guest come on Friday. I've started to think about having like an Eagles-ish, Eagles-related guest on Fridays just to kind of preview the game. Let me know what you think of it. You can drop it in the comments live. You can drop it in the comments after the fact. One thing I do want to request of all of you, like fine people, wonderful people, is that if you can, make sure you hit the like button, click the like button on the video, subscribe to the channel, share the video. You can share it on social media. You can share it in a text, whatever it is. Totally fine with that as well. Would love to see this video and this show continue to grow. And I know that this has been going against the or across the bottom of the screen the whole episode. But for those who weren't here in the very beginning when I showed it, I will do one more shameless plug here before we head out. You head on over to shop.therussjoyshow.com. Go get your Red October merch. You cannot find me better designs out there right now than what we have over at shop.therussjoyshow.com. Don't give a cruck. Red October, everything else. The postseason 2024. Red October. Ring the Bell. Schwarbomb. I mean, these are great shirts. They're great shirts. And remember, everything is available. And this Ghost, the Ghost one is great. These shirts are available as t-shirts, long sleeve tees, crew neck sweatshirts, and hoodies. And if you have kids or you have a favorite niece, nephew, whatever, the Red October Ghost design is also available in youth size t-shirt and youth size hoodie. If you're sitting there, out there, wherever, and you're like, oh, I wish that you had this in a different size, or I wish we had the ability to get the Don't Give a Cruck shirt in a kid's size, which I don't know if I'd advise it, but you do you. You parent how you want to parent. Shoot me a DM over on Instagram or on Twitter at JoyOnBroad. You can send me an email, russ@joymediallc.com. You can find a different way to reach out to me on all the social media platforms. But anyway, you head over to shop.therussjoyshow.com. Go get your Red October merch today. It's going to be great. People have already ordered. I saw an order came in during the show, like while the show was going on. An order came through, which I greatly appreciate. So I guess maybe things on the show work. I don't know. Just saying. Little call to action, And then let's see. Sean C., a little bit of negativity. We'll be careful here. All right. Sean thinks that the Phillies are going to be out in the NLDS and asks, if I order, will it be delivered before the Phillies are eliminated by an inferior team? No, because the Phillies are going to win the World Series. At least that's what Anthony SanFilippo says, and he's never been wrong about anything. I think the Phillies are going to go on a nice deep run. We have great merch. Go pick it up. Apparently, the turnaround time is going to be pretty quick. I partnered with people who are relatively local. It's a business in Pennsylvania, so everything is done in PA. We're not ordering shirts that are going to take 3 weeks to get here from China. So there's a little bit of positivity as well. Handcrafted in the US of A. Make of that what you will. Anyway, I'll be back on Friday with the Russ Joy Show, 8:30 a.m. You can find this show every Tuesday and Friday, 8:30 live on YouTube, X, and Facebook. You can find it wherever you get your podcasts, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Pandora, Amazon Music, wherever you get your podcasts. And of course, Snow the Goalie. Will we have an episode this week while Anthony's on the road? Bundy and I will figure that out. Whether or not we do, I'm not sure. We do have a best of the press row show that intern Andrew put together. That might run this week. So keep your eyes peeled on the Snow the Goalie social pages for an update there. Crossing broadcast is on Thursday. I'm not sure if I'll be on this week. Kevin Kincaid will be in the lead chair there. So if nothing else, if the only other live episode I do this week is on this show, I'll see each and every one of you on Friday. Share the video, share the episode with, let's say, 2 people in your life. We'll continue to grow this thing together. You, me, and the dance floor. Maybe I'll show you a clip from the dance floor at Anthony's wedding on Friday. But until then, I'm Russ Joy. This has been the Russ Joy Show. Have a great rest of your day, everybody.